Today we're going to be looking at Learning Target 23. I can show the decimal expansion for rational numbers. This first portion should be review for you. We're going to be looking at converting fractions to decimals. So without a calculator, we have to rely on long division to convert fractions to decimals. So I have an example here of using long division to do that. If we had 3 divided by 8, 3 goes on the inside of the division house with a decimal and a few zeros after it, and then 8 goes on the outside. And we ask ourselves, okay, how many times does 8 go into 3? It does not. So then we ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into 30? And 8 goes into 30 3 times, and that's where we get this 3 that's on the top of the division house. We then do multiplication. 3 times 8 is 24. And then we would subtract 30 and 24, which gives us 6. We then have to bring down the 0. 8 goes into 60 7 times. And then 7 times 8 is 56. And then we would subtract again, and we get 4. We have to bring down that next 0, so we get 40. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. And when we subtract those, we get 0. Little acronym you can use is you can think of the division family of a dad, a mom, a sister, and a brother. Dad would be you first divide. How many times does 8 go into 30? Then we multiply. 3 times 8 is 24. Then we subtract. 30 minus 24 gives you 6, and then you bring down. And you follow this process until you are one place beyond. We either get a 0 as our remainder, or we are one place past the location that you need to round to. So looking at our chart here, if I begin with the fraction 9/16, we first need to use division. So I'm going to set up my division house. The 9 is being divided, so I'll put 9 with a couple zeros after and 16 on the outside. And then I'm going to bring up that decimal. So 16 does not go into 9. 16 into 90. You have to do a little bit of quick math. We'll say about 5. So 5 times 16, we got 5 times 6 is 30. Carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 3 is 8. Okay, so we get 80. 90 minus 80 is 10. Bring down that 0. 16 goes into 100. Well, if it goes into 80 6 times, or 5 times, one more time would bring us to 96. So 6 times 16 is 96. If I subtract, I get 4. Bring down that next 0. 16 goes into 40 about 2 times. 2 times 16 is 12. I carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So that gives me 32. And I subtract. So that gives me 8. I'm going to add one more 0 to bring down 16 into 80. We already did that fact at the very beginning. I know 16 goes exactly into 80 5 times. So 5 times 16 is 80, and I subtract and I get 0. So the decimal expansion of 9/16 is 0.5625, and it is a terminating decimal, which makes sense because 9/16 is a rational number. If I want to make that a percent, I'm going to move the decimal to the right 2 places, so that would give me 56.25%. Now, if we need to move backwards, if I have 84%, to get the decimal, I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the left. So in 84%, my decimal is at the end. 2 places to the left would give me 0.84. And then to write it as a fraction, I'm going to read it. So 0.84 written or read correctly would be 84 hundredths. So I get the fraction 84 hundredths. But I recognize that those are both even, so I can't leave it as 84 hundredths. It's not reduced. So I could take a guess. They're both even. I could divide by 2. So let's try that. If I divide each of these by 2, 100 divided by 2 is 50. 84. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. That gives me 42 50ths. 42 and 50 are both even, so I'm going to divide by 2 again. And 42 divided by 2, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 50 divided by 2 is 25. 21 and 25 do not share a common factor, so my reduced fraction would be 21 over 25. If we have anything that is repeating, we can recognize that it's repeating because we show a bar over it. So if I have a decimal like 0.6 repeating, it would look like that. If I had two numbers repeating, maybe 2, 3, there would be a bar over all of it. Sometimes repetition doesn't start until the third number, and then you would put the bar only over the part that would repeat. The denominator for any of those fractions that have repetition is going to be some form of 9, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming lesson.